We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. I know y'all tired of it, but we got a new season of The Past. Welcome to season 8, the Mamba Year. Podcast available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of your podcast platforms. Here you'll get a dose of content related to tech, the productivity world, and most importantly, how to be a better you. The theme for this year, personally, is receiving grace. And we definitely want to do better with receiving it and being open to being a better us from who we were a year ago. So this is season 8 of The Past, and I hope you all enjoy.
Feel like forever and a day. Even though I recorded last week. Good, y'all. Seem like we back active again with some more written and unwritten content. So we'll make this day shake like we always do. I almost pulled off the unthinkable about to say like we always do at this time. Man, when I tell you a lot has happened within a week's time, some heavy, some different, some mm, I've joked about this, but as much as people have made mockery of his trend on TikTok, so there's a basketball player who goes by the name the Lethal Shooter. He is probably the one TikToker who can make something go viral that you wouldn't even think can go viral. And to not go into the overindulgent details, he does, he takes a shot. He may miss it, he may make it, but once he misses one, there's a four there's a 4 word phrase that he said, and basically the phrase is "I understand it now." And people who are watching the videos, you know, now we about to see him flip this switch and just not miss. And that's pretty much what happens. Um, the reason I'm starting with that is in the moment of everything that I've experienced or still experiencing, you don't really get it. It don't really resonate to any type of extreme or anything. But where necessary, you understand it. And I'm beginning to understand it, man. I'm really understanding it now. I was not, I don't know if it was that I wasn't equipped to understand it. I didn't want to understand it. I didn't want to embrace it. But it's it's piecing that puzzle together to understand why you're put in the positions you're put in. Um, the personal big hit, even for me, was There's a men's ministry that, for the most part, I've been pretty faithful with attending, and I had to miss it. I really felt like bad, like really felt bad about not being able to go. Um, you sometimes you're sometimes thrown in the position of whatever it is that you need to face or deal with, you got to face or deal with it. So I needed to face and deal with what I needed to deal with before, getting stuff back on track. Um, the train somehow will have a tendency to get off track. But you got to take it up and get it back in gear. And I can I can openly and honestly admit that the times that I didn't think I'd have it in order, I had it together all the time. I got up this morning and I didn't doom scroll. I don't wanna sound like that person, but I did check online and kind of check like a few posts before getting up to do the walk. And a friend of mine who is really near and dear to me, and I'm not gonna put a lot of personal out there, but she's real cool, real close. We've kind of, and I ain't gonna say we haven't had good communication or good contact before, but lately it's like more check-ins, more consistent, et cetera, et cetera. But she shared a post of her anniversary of her father's passing. And I don't know what it is, but I also understand, literally, I understand it now. There were many of my classmates or schoolmates who I didn't really talk to a lot, but I talked to. And I keep up with what they got going on, or how they keep up with what I got going on. And I posted, you know, I would see everybody post different things for different days. And a lot of them had, I would say over the last couple of years, they lost their father. And let me be 100% clear before I go any direction with this walkcast today. It was never a point or never a thought that he was going to quote unquote live forever. But I also didn't know how long or how soon things would start to seem and feel different. And a lot of my friends, a lot of us being older, in our 40s, 30s, some 50s, um, you you reach a point where the parental guidance has been provided, right? You've been given the tools, the resources to become a better man or become a better woman. And once their time has been, for lack of a better term, once their time has been gifted to the earth, now you have to look at it as, all right, This person has left and provided quite a fair share to the world and to those who impacted him in some way, shape, or form. Now comes the big question: what type of impact are you going to make for the world? And being direct, I genuinely don't know. Um, and I say I don't know, but I say it in a long drawn thought bubble and really looking at like where a lot of things have happened, continue happening, haven't stopped happening within my life. And I don't I don't take for granted what's been put around me to put things into perspective. So like for instance, I've probably yeah, I don't think yeah, that was the only like thinking back on it, I think that's the one difference maker looking at it now is there weren't many people that I could sit and have that conversation about what I talked about when I went to lunch last week. And I'm not going to go into details and specifics from having lunch, but I will share that one, well, three, I'll give three things. One, I'm glad I went. I'm glad I like actually got up, went in the office and attended because I've been already going through X, Y, and Z. And life, like we hear the phrase life moves on, but it's almost like life moves on, but there's an asterisk behind that moving on part because the move on isn't the same move on for everybody. Plain and simple. Um, so to experience the move and experience the actions involving the move are real. But I don't deny or take for granted what I gained from the conversation. Number two, which hopefully I'll have these all uploaded and ready to get back in the swing of. But I'm not gonna sit here and say I've had an identity crisis, but I will say that I've spent more time trying to do what everyone else thinks I should do or be everyone else thinks I should be instead of just being Brian. Um, Brian is always, if you've heard enough of the Walkcast and or podcast, Brian loves writing. I've noticed, however, that writing can be difficult. And I don't want anyone who hears this to think when I'm pushing the thought of the idea of like, write, you need to write it down, you need to write it down, that I don't practice what I preach. Because practically in some form I do. Um, I just don't I just don't fulfill it to the maximum potential. And sometimes that can be a challenging slash daunting task on its own. Right. So The writing factor has been noticeable. Uh, as much as I record podcasts, I love consuming podcasts. The reality is, however, I don't consume them as much as I used to. And there's a lot of reasons and a lot of variations behind that. Big music heads, most of y'all know that already. If you when you hear this, it just got released yesterday, but the lo-fi lore was pushed a little bit because we got a new playlist um, called Lo-Fi Jazz, which Lo-Fi Jazz has already been out there, but the scenery for Lo-Fi Jazz is new because it's the study girl at a coffee shop, and that incentivized me and sort of lost some ideas of how much. I think probably not at all. Maybe I can count on one hand if I have actually done it. And thinking back, I said I haven't, but realistically, I've done it maybe a few times, but very few times. But just took a trip, gone to a coffee shop, and just unplugged, like journaling, listening to a podcast, whatever the case may be. Um, so that's been a thought that came about as well. But he told me to be myself, and those are some of the things. There's a lot of other stuff too. Um, like I talk about writing, and last night I eventually made a bold decision or a solid choice to start writing my newsletters. So I have three newsletters now. I went from one to three. Who would have knew? But the other two that I created will be, they're all going to be different. So doing this, believe it or not, continues the spark of writing. And it doesn't make me, which I don't like to use this term, but it fulfills the reference. I don't want to be a cut, copy, paste writer by a long shot because there's plenty to share, plenty to address. Um, so that's where I'm at with those elements. But like I said, there's other things that I thought about when he said that. And number two is once I'm invested and true in being myself, then the right person, in my case, the right woman, will come along and it will fit where I'm at and where I'm headed. Um, like I said, I think now more than anything, I just want good people around. That's about it. And I know for some people when they hear that, they're like, "Who doesn't want good people around?" I'm like, you'd be surprised. A lot of people, a lot of people don't. It's tough to say, but it's truthful to speak on. A lot of people don't. They want good people around, but they want good people around on their terms and under their condition. And I just want good people around. Period. Like my connection with a lot of people, as expected, has changed. Um, but yeah, went on that tangent as usual. But with all that being stated, I do want to point out like the piece of I understand it now. Like I did the walk last Wednesday. I didn't know what happened after that would happen, but it did. Um, and it put a lot of things to light, for lack of a better term, and it it slowed me down. And a lot of times when we hear or we acknowledge this phrase, we're slowed down, we look at it like, I can't do nothing, I can't go anywhere. And it's like, no, you now have other things that you need to focus on. And I've probably fulfilled more time and effort focusing on those things, not trying to, in the nicest way possible, be someone I'm not. Um, and for a lot of people, whether we realize it or not, being ourselves is very tough. And referencing back to that again, but um, finding that space is one of the best things in the world. Um, 2000 still lives with me rent free because that was one of those turning points of being myself. Uh, I almost want to say when I was at, I mean, now it's been, shoot, it's been 6 years now since I left from there. Since I've left Cap One, like, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter now because Cap One, done- Cap One on full blown transformed. Like, the department I'm in ain't even there no more. Uh, but like while being there and kind of learning and finding my like fashion flow with like khakis and like I haven't took time to do it yet, but I really want to get like more khakis, get more polos, um, get a more acclimated and consistent outfit flow or structure going on. But I want to be intentional. I want it to be me being me. And at one point, and it's so crazy thinking back on it now, like I was wearing a lot of stuff like I'm wearing now, like it was nothing. And there was a lot of working on self that I needed to continue doing to become a better version of self. Um, we are, I don't think I've talked about it yet in a newsletter, but I've hit the 2 year mark of working out or quote unquote, no, I ain't gonna say, I say working out, but realistically having like a gym routine. Um, I've missed, I personally missed a few weeks based on traveling, stuff like that. Somehow it's always like whatever event that I've gone to, I'm traveling the Monday of that trip. And it's a funny story now that I think back on it. Like the main reason that I picked or chose Mondays as an option was I was off on Mondays when I first started. Now, obviously, like anything, things change. And I mean, even with the schedule I have now, it still works out. But like Monday was such a wide open fishnet for me where, I did what I did, became who I wanted to be, stuff like that. And everything was everything. Um, I think honestly, like so one of my OG, I call it my OG bars, one of my probably my favorite like spot to go to. I want to say I started going there like had to have been it was a week after my birthday, and a friend of mine was performing, and we had talked about it afterwards. She's like, "Yeah, I was here last week." I was like, "Oh, so you performed here on my birthday and didn't tell me?" I was like, "That's cool." And we've been good. We've been riding, been close since then. How we became friends still is probably one of the fun. Like how a lot of my friends who thought they knew me as someone else, those have been like the more cherished friendships, for lack of a better term. Um, I think I talked about it before. The suicide walk that I did a couple weeks ago. Like a friend who happened to, so it was like a friend of mine happened to be out there, and we saw each other, and we pretty much hung out with each other the whole time. So it was like we hung out with each other, but we gave each other like, look, we know each other, but you ain't got to think that I'm like in your space trying to be, a nuisance or whatever. Um, and then funny part, uh, one of my other friends who went to school with me, she was there, and we've always kept close contact, some in some way, shape, or form. Like there's, and this is something that I always think is so interesting. Like, do I like and do I appreciate social media? 100%. But one thing I can stand behind is just the simple fact that social media, and this is gonna really, like, even me thinking about it now, this is like the reality that didn't get presented when these applications came out. The important part of it is social, but the part that people make important is media. And media gets made important in various facets, one of which is the consumer. So, of course, y'all have heard me talk about this endless times. The consumer has a job. His or her job, or their job, excuse me, is to go on said application and consume whatever source of media is put out there. Now, here's the kicker: the media does not have to be audio or video. It can be written. So I shared this a couple times, but I always like sharing this story. I got on Instagram, had to have been at least 12 years ago. I want to say it was in 2012. It was either 20, it was either 2011 or 2012. Because when I first made my account, I was so unsure of what to do on the application. So when I first got on, a lot of people posting pictures, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. My brain went to, can we write stuff? How do you get written posts out there? Um, Screenshots were not as popular as they are now. Fun fact to some people. Um, but people weren't really, everybody went on a screenshot high back then. So you didn't have folks who could screenshot and share stuff as quick as they do now. Um, but the media part of social media is the lost art. And the reason why it's the lost art is because, for instance, you can go on someone's page and listen to a podcast, and it's a it's a weird double win, but it's a like kind of almost like the age old phrase, a win is a win. Facebook taught me something, but it taught me something that I wish I didn't know, but now I'm glad I know it. And that is they're being very specific with links being shared online. Now, let me be clear. You can reshare stuff all you want to. Um, I think in our group, I know my friend Jarrell, friend of the show, he's been on the show before. Uh, he shared links. Like we obviously we run a sports group. The sports group is link based. Like we share a lot of links there. Um, with many of those links, they'll go to other pages. All that seems okay. But why I'm bringing this up and talking about it is I had wrote my newsletter Saturday, and Sunday I was like, oh, it's 9 o'clock. My new newsletter should be out there. And so I'm, getting it, going to the page. I see the link. I try to share it. And Facebook was like, no, you can't share this post. And it was almost like it was viewed as potential spam. And I'm like, it's WordPress. Like we're filtering WordPress as like a source to share things online. But nonetheless, it's fine because sometimes, and I've learned this too, this is one of those like hard truths to accept. Sometimes companies are locking or blocking something being shared because you may not be intended to share or really be a part of what they're doing. And I've learned that multiple times with their page, but lately I'm really starting to see it. Um, but yeah, I definitely understand why I had to slow down. Um, again, I'm not going to go into personals because of respect, but I just say I made good acquaintances and good friends with someone that is no longer here. And my grief for it was a little heavy and initially getting news and information related to it. But my grief was even heavier, or just my feelings were even heavier when first hearing about their status and condition. So that all was like a lot, literally. Um, the part that hits hardest with that is they would talk to me frequently about different things. A lot of truly was pouring a lot of life into me and where I was and how I saw a lot of stuff. And it's huge. It's huge. It's heavy. Make no mistake. Um, so experiencing that, experiencing a friend that's literally been not even like a brother, has been a brother. Um, and even I can't believe I'm talking about it now because it's like this is not how this is all supposed to be going on, but it's not in my control. Um, it's like you went from playing gears together to practically barely gaming, but more growing, right? And it's tough. It's tough realities we have to sit with, but there's also just some things we got to just call what they are. And what they are and what they were at this time was you can't be there through everything. It's just it's humanly impossible, obviously. But the times and the opportunities that you have to be there and be there to the best of your ability. And I didn't realize or know the magnitude of what was going on until I got like all I remember was getting information. It's still like the timeline was so clear back then. This had like the information and how it all hit me was last year. And it was that was before this time, because obviously I think it was still like the fourth or the fifth or something like that. But I was I was out of town. Like I was out of town coming back from a trip, but I was still, trying to do work and still trying to stay active to some extreme. And I'm talking with like I'm so funny thing about this is a Brianism, and you can take it to the bank, you can feel how you feel about it, but this is just one of my personal things. I do not like using my phone in public if I don't have to. And why I say that is because, first and foremost, rest his soul. My dad was a big speakerphone guy. And even before that, I was never the biggest fan of speakerphone, just because of the simple fact that I really did not want to hear the full conversation. Sometimes, because it was almost like sometimes when some people like, "Oh, so and so's here. You want to say hi?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to say hi because they don't need to know I'm here." I was that was my whole being private and moving. Like, look, I'm chilling off the grid. Let me chill and be off the grid. But the truth is, I make the statement about speakerphone, but truthfully, like even like what I'm doing now, so it's what it's almost 6 o'clock in the morning. No one's up this early. So at this time of the day, I can walk and talk freely. No one's really hearing what I'm talking about or what's going on. That being said, bars, hotels, airports, definitely movie theaters. Movie theaters don't want to answer if we were doing it in a family feud format. I don't need to hear a phone call. I don't want to acknowledge anyone even being on their phone. Um, when I say being on their phone, like I get it. You're gonna pick up your phone, you're gonna check your phone, you're gonna have a conversation here and there. Totally get it. But when it's like I'm getting the full rundown of the story, I think what you get me was it wasn't the story part of it. It would be more so the the story is being talked about, but while the story is happening, the person is then wanting to update me while they're talking. And I'm like, I don't want to hear all that. Like, I don't like. I'm never gonna be against it. If a person gotta take a call, you gotta take a call because you never know what call it could be or what it's in regards to. So that part of it, fully understandable. Um, but all that being said, bringing it back to the conversation, getting the call or having this conversation while I'm at the airport trying to get home and being brought up to speed of what's going on. I'm like in a state of shock. And don't the person I need to ask questions to, I couldn't. I didn't really want to talk about it in its entirety because I really haven't talked about this to anybody. So you all are getting, I won't even say premium content. This is just more like this has become my iteration of a safe space to address this. But I've really had some ups and downs with all that has happened. And long story not being longer, I guess. You looks like your friend had to slow down. And even in having conversations with him related to it, that's a lot for him. That's a lot in general, but it's a lot when you're having to accept what or where something has reached, basically. And the hardest part about the whole thing is it won't shit I could do. There's one thing I've attempted, which is doing a character letter, which 100% honesty, never done one before. Um, that was a lot, but I was able to get that composed and sent out. So hopefully it helps. Um, I'm just the one. Well, I would say the one thing, but two things that have been very like near and dear to me have been pray and love. Um, yes, I've been working on my health. Yes, I've been working on eating better, moving better, things of that nature. Talked about this numerous times. I'm at 25-minute walks for total 50. And and honest truth, me doing this, say, I don't know, um, me doing this 2 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago, or less than 2 years ago, when I first started, like 5 minutes, just a 5-minute walk, far, far different and better comparison in the two, because I would do a few miles, a few, not even miles, a few steps, and I'm like, bro, that's a lot. Um, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 was where it would get a little, become a little different. But I've been doing the 25 for the last few weeks. But trying to do this and then factoring in learning how to pray, or being open to praying, being open to reflecting. That's probably one of the things that I forgot, because I think I put up something that said like read, pray, meditate, and write. Or I might have said journal, but I think I might have said write. And the craziest thing is those things that I mentioned to do or to start doing aren't hard over overbearing tasks. They're overbearing from the aspect of I've done them before, but nothing has put me in a position to have to do them compared to being in a position to have to do them. So it's a little different when you're really understanding why you're, you know, why your father prayed as much as he did, why your mom prays as much as she does, why friends pray as much as they do over you. You understand a lot more why. Like it seems in the moment, it seems weird, but it's also like fruitful. Why reading really is fundamental. Like it's so basic that it's too basic for some people. And the hard part is, and I've been on in numerous spaces and said this, especially with people who I know who are teachers. Folks will say, "Oh, it's hard to read or hard to write," and it's two variations of that. If I ask someone to digitally send a text message to somebody, they'll send a message. And the reason why is because what do you have in 2024? You got autocorrect, you got proofreading, you have like that's why I know I'm going down a rabbit hole a little bit. That's why when everybody was so up in up in arms and feeling a certain type of way about ChatGPT and AI and all that stuff, I'm like, what do you think spell check was? You don't think that was like generated? That wasn't nothing that was just like learning and teaching how you write and what you say. It's the same thing. Like Grammarly got hot a few years ago, and now like Grammarly integrates AI. Like if you pay for the pro version, you get like access to do more with AI or more with your writing or reading, writing more. But yeah, as far as the written challenge was like you ask somebody to just write something on a computer, but they can't use any sources, overwhelmed, or know how to cite your sources. That's a lot for some people today. But there's one thing that is like the most consistent, yes, yet evident trend is anything can happen to someone and they can go through doing whatever. The first word is you're gonna hear that person blurt out, I need my phone. Where's my phone? Can I get my phone? How long gonna be without my phone? And it's like the phone is such a tethered product that it's almost like it becomes scary when you think about the idea that phones will really be part of our everyday. They come in this way and okay, I was like, oh, well, this show ought to be loud. But it's like it's it's the tethering and the attachment to technology that sometimes can be too much. And it's interesting because even thinking about that with my friend, and even thinking about it with myself, because last year was the 10-year hit of me going through everything. I think it was like last year and this year. And I think lately I've not been giving it as much weight. But the one thing that stands out is when you're trying to do stuff and you can't do it the way you want to. Um, real, real quick, got legitimate examples. Um, more the few the few instances that Like the instances of me being in was what I went through. Like I ain't had that many people write me. I didn't really want nobody even to know what was happening. I just was there. Um, Having to figure out that process, that was a lot. I'm not even like making light of or making mockery of it. It was just a lot. Um, but luckily, yesterday, in spite of, and if I have not said so already, Happy Veterans Day to those who are near and dear to me, those that have been and continue to be family. Love and appreciate every single one of y'all. If you don't hear it enough from me, um, I gotta be real and accepting that a lot of what life puts in front of you in its moment, you don't get it. But I know when it comes to my friends, especially those who are vets, like they did a lot and they got stories, albeit unique to themselves. And you always know you got support of me. Let this one finish up, cook it up, give it some edit and some fun flair. And we'll be back soon. We will be continuing these. Hopefully, like I said, I probably won't do one this weekend because I think this weekend I need to truly sit and just write. But I do intend to give more time to just myself and what that looks like. I think I've shared it in a TikTok video before, but it's also just what it is. And that is, um, you sometimes don't get why something is done the way it is, but then you realize there was a reason it was done the way it is. For instance, mm, my previous schedule slotted like 30 minutes, which was 15 in the morning, 15 in the evening. First 15 was written time, where I just would have my journal and just journal. And the second was reading. And there was a book, which I still have the book, Level Up. I was reading that book and getting quite a bit of information. Now I'm reading Purpose Driven Life. I haven't read it as much as I would like to, but I need to slot and allot that time to do so, especially when you need and are demanding of that unplug. So that's all I got for y'all. I'm gonna get in here, get this thing going because I got a bit of an earlier routine this morning. So I'll make it be what it be. I will catch y'all next time.
Truly hope you all enjoyed the show. Definitely was a lot to unpack, but I know you'll walk away with something important. As I share at the end of each season, do find your way to get into podcasting if it's something you would like to do. My podcasts are currently recorded via Buzzsprout. Been very good to me. If you want to learn more about using them, definitely hit me up at thepastbtpod@gmail.com. And also the microphone that you're hearing me on is the Blue Yeti X. Have been rolling with it for over 3 years. We've been doing this ride for quite some time, so I hope someone could find this mic useful. Again, find those people who are good or helpful in what you're trying to do to be better today than you were yesterday. The primary goal is to be 1% better. Hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll be back again to do this next time.